Museums are built to protect the most valuable pieces of human history. Behind glass walls, locked doors, cameras, guards, and alarms, priceless paintings, jewels, and artifacts are supposed to stay safe forever. But history has proved one thing again and again. No security system is perfect. Sometimes a thief only needs one weak door, sometimes one distracted guard, sometimes a fake uniform, and sometimes pure confidence is enough to walk out with a masterpiece. These are not ordinary robberies. These are museum heists that shocked the world, embarrassed security experts, and changed how priceless art is protected. Today, we are looking at 8 of the biggest museum heists ever pulled off, from the theft that made the Mona Lisa world famous, to the legendary Gardner Museum robbery, to the modern jewel heist that stunned Germany. On August 21, 1911, the Louvre Museum in Paris was closed to the public. That should have made the museum safer. But for one man, the quiet halls of the Louvre created the perfect opportunity. His name was Vincenzo Peruggia, an Italian man who had previously worked at the Louvre. He knew the building, he knew how workers moved through the museum, and most importantly, he knew that a worker's uniform could make a person nearly invisible. That morning, Peruggia entered the museum wearing a white worker's smock. To anyone watching, he looked like he belonged there. Inside the salon car, Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa was hanging on the wall. Today, the painting is one of the most famous images on Earth, but at that time, it was not protected the way it is now. Peruggia waited for the room to clear. Then he lifted the painting from the wall and carried it to a nearby stairway. There, he removed it from its frame and protective case. Then came the most unbelievable part. He simply hid the painting under his clothing and walked out. For hours, nobody realized what had happened. The next day, when the empty space on the wall was noticed, the Louvre went into panic. Police were called, the museum closed, newspapers exploded with the story. How could the most important museum in France lose a Leonardo da Vinci painting? The theft became an international scandal. Detectives chased rumors, suspects, and false leads. Even famous artists and writers were questioned. But the painting had not crossed the world. It was hidden quietly in Peruggia's room. For more than 2 years, the Mona Lisa remained missing. Then, in December 1913, Peruggia tried to return or sell the painting in Florence, Italy. He contacted an art dealer, claiming he wanted the artwork restored to its homeland. The dealer became suspicious and brought in the director of the Uffizi Gallery. Once they confirmed the painting was real, police arrested Peruggia. The Mona Lisa was finally recovered. Ironically, the theft made the painting even more famous than before. People who had never cared about it suddenly wanted to see it. The empty space, the mystery, and the worldwide hunt turned the Mona Lisa into a global icon. This heist showed museums a painful lesson. Sometimes the biggest threat is not a masked gang. Sometimes it is a familiar face wearing the right uniform. On December 22, 2000, just before Christmas, visitors were still inside the National Museum in Stockholm, Sweden. Then 3 armed robbers entered the building. This was not a quiet night burglary. It was a bold daylight robbery in front of people. The thieves carried weapons and quickly took control of the situation. Their targets were 3 valuable paintings, a self-portrait by Rembrandt and 2 paintings by Pierre-Auguste Renoir. The robbery was carefully timed and dramatic. Outside the museum, distractions had been created to slow down police response. The thieves escaped using a small boat waiting near the waterfront. In only a short time, 3 famous paintings had vanished from one of Sweden's most important museums. The stolen works were valued in the tens of millions of dollars. But like most famous stolen art, they were almost impossible to sell openly. Anyone trying to move them would attract international attention. Police launched a major investigation. Over time, the case began to break apart for the criminals. One painting was recovered in 2001. Later, more arrests and international cooperation helped recover the remaining works. By 2005, the stolen Rembrandt had also been recovered. Unlike the Gardner Museum case, the Stockholm robbery ended with the art returning home. But the heist still shocked museum security teams around the world. It showed that museums were vulnerable not only at night, but also during open hours. It also showed how criminals could use confusion outside the building to create a window inside it. The National Museum heist looked like a movie scene. Armed thieves, priceless paintings, and an escape by boat. But for the museum, it was a real warning. When art is famous enough, even a crowded public space can become a crime scene. On December 7, 2002, 2 paintings by Vincent van Gogh were stolen from the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. The stolen works were View of the Sea at Scheveningen and Congregation Leaving the Reformed Church in Nieuwenan. These were not Van Gogh's most famous paintings, but they were still priceless pieces of his early work. For the museum, losing them was a cultural disaster. The thieves entered the museum during the night and escaped quickly. The robbery lasted only minutes, but the damage lasted for years. Dutch police investigated the case and eventually arrested suspects, but the paintings themselves disappeared. For more than a decade, nobody knew where they were. Had they been destroyed? Were they hidden in a private collection? Had they been moved through organized crime networks? The answer came 14 years later. In 2016, Italian authorities recovered the 2 paintings near Naples during an investigation connected to organized crime. The artworks were found hidden away, far from the museum where they belonged. When the paintings were finally recovered, the art world celebrated. They had survived years in the criminal underworld. But the heist revealed a painful truth about stolen art. Even when thieves manage to steal world-famous paintings, they cannot easily sell them. Instead, the artworks often become hidden trophies, bargaining tools, or criminal assets. For 14 years, 2 Van Gogh paintings were lost from public view. The museum got them back, but the case proved that once art disappears, recovery can take not days or months, but decades. On August 22, 2004, visitors were inside the Munch Museum in Oslo, Norway. Then, 2 masked armed men entered. In front of shocked witnesses, the thieves went straight for 2 of Edvard Munch's most famous works, The Scream and Madonna. This was not a hidden overnight robbery. It happened during opening hours, in daylight, while people were watching. The robbers forced guards down and pulled the paintings from the wall. Within minutes, they were gone. The theft stunned Norway. The Scream was not just a painting, it was a national symbol and one of the most recognizable images in modern art. Losing it felt like losing part of the country's identity. Rumors spread quickly. Some feared the paintings had been destroyed. Others believed they had been hidden by organized criminals. The museum closed for months while security was reviewed and upgraded. Police arrested and convicted several people connected to the robbery, but for a long time, the paintings remained missing. Then, on August 31, 2006, Norwegian police recovered both The Scream and Madonna. They were damaged, but not destroyed. The recovery brought relief, but it also raised serious questions. How could 2 armed men enter a major museum during public hours and remove 2 world-famous paintings so quickly? The Munch Museum theft became one of the clearest examples of how speed and intimidation can defeat security. The thieves did not need secrecy. They used shock, and for a few minutes, shock was enough. On May 20, 2010, Paris woke up to one of the most shocking art thefts in modern French history. 5 paintings had disappeared from the Musée d'Art Moderne de Paris. The stolen works were by Pablo Picasso, Henri Matisse, Amedeo Modigliani, Georges Braque, and Fernand Léger. Together, they were valued at more than 100 million euros. The thief was later identified as Vieren Tomek, a skilled burglar known for climbing buildings. He had studied the museum and understood its weaknesses. During the night, he entered through a window and moved through the museum. The paintings were carefully removed from their frames. By morning, the empty frames were left behind, and the masterpieces were gone. The theft was humiliating because it exposed security problems inside a major Paris museum. Reports later showed that parts of the alarm system had not worked properly. A museum holding world-class art had been beaten by one determined burglar. The case became even darker after the arrests. According to court testimony, an accomplice later claimed that the stolen paintings had been destroyed after police pressure increased. Whether that claim was fully true remains uncertain, but the paintings have never been recovered. That possibility horrified the art world. Most art thieves hope to profit from stolen masterpieces, but if stolen art becomes too dangerous to keep, criminals may hide it, damage it, or destroy it. The Musée d'Art Moderne theft showed that the loss from a museum heist is not always temporary. Sometimes a painting does not just disappear from a wall. It may disappear from history forever. On November 25, 2019, one of Europe's greatest treasure collections was hit by a modern museum heist. The target was the Green Vault in Dresden, Germany. Inside the museum were priceless jewels connected to Saxon royalty, diamonds, ornaments, and historic treasures, made not only valuable by money, but by centuries of history. Before dawn, the thieves struck. A fire near the museum caused a power disruption in the area. The thieves then entered the building and reached the jewel room. Security cameras captured masked figures smashing display cases and removing valuable pieces. The robbery was fast, violent, and precise. The stolen items included jewelry decorated with thousands of diamonds. Authorities later valued the stolen pieces at more than 113 million euros. But experts said the historical value was almost impossible to measure. These jewels were not replaceable. They were part of European royal history. The heist shocked Germany and triggered a massive police investigation. It also raised serious questions about how one of the most important treasure collections in Europe could be attacked so directly. Years later, several suspects were convicted. A major portion of the stolen jewels was recovered, though some pieces were damaged and some items remained missing. The Green Vault heist became a modern warning for museums everywhere. Old art theft was often about paintings on walls, but modern thieves also target jewels, gold, and portable treasures, objects that can be broken apart, hidden, or sold more easily than a famous painting. The Dresden heist proved that even in the age of cameras, alarms, and advanced security, a determined criminal group can still find a weak point. And when they do, centuries of history can vanish before sunrise.